Of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen for Tuesday, August the 15th. I have a few changes to the agenda. If you would, please remove number 22. And then I have 3 additions. If you will add at number 6, letter C, then 8, to hire a deputy city clerk in financial administration. At 6C9, to accept a retirement in the fire department. And at 6C10, a promotion in the fire department. And you have those memos at your desks regarding those changes. Is that it, Ashley?
And one minor correction to the minutes whenever we get to that item, just a change to the roll. I had Mr. Taylor marked absent. He actually called in that meeting, so just be changing that to via Teams.
Great. All right. With those changes, could I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The first thing I want to do tonight is put Josh Hawkins on the spot. Josh is our new member of the House of Representatives for District 10, and I have had the pleasure of meeting with him several times already, and he is hitting the ground running, working for our community, and we appreciate it so much, and we welcome you to our meeting.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Josh. I'm sure that anyone who has driven around town has seen that the students are back. And that is a wonderful time of year because we get, you know, thousands of 18-year-olds that have just an energy level and kind of have the world by its tail. And we have heard speculation, they don't have final numbers yet, but we have heard speculation that it will be in excess of 5,000 in the freshman class. Last year, it was at about 4,500, the year before at about 3,800. So that's, you know, 2,000 extra cars. That's what I tell the university. I'm like, I don't see them as students, I see them as vehicles. And on our 2-lane downtown roads, that is, it's a lot more cars that you are gonna be behind at red lights. So get ready and be patient as they learn to maneuver roundabouts and learn to figure out where they can and cannot legally park, and learn to kind of find their new groove in Oxford. Of course, the growth of the university certainly impacts our community in wonderful ways. It impacts our economy in wonderful ways, but it also presents some growing pains. So y'all be patient in the next, you know, I don't know, 10 years, three or 4 weeks while people figure out where they're going. And as I said, the university has a huge positive impact on us, as we know positive you know, athletic seasons do as well. We've seen it both ways. And so I'm excited that we're partnering with the Grove Collective Business Coalition, and that is what the Grove Collective is doing for Oxford businesses and businesses that would like to donate a percentage of their sales from August the 21st through the 27th. You'll see a lot of information coming out about that, and I'm really excited because we have developed a partnership of Oxford Ole Miss players, from JJ Piggies playing football and Grace Freeman on the soccer team, and many others that are going to form partnerships with these Oxford businesses that want to participate and help do some marketing here at the local level, and obviously help with these NIL deals. Speaking of Oxford athletes, I have to brag on Julia Dennis, who is one of our very own. She's the daughter of Dr. Michael and Amy Dennis, and she competed in Dublin, Ireland for Team USA this weekend and brought home a gold medal. So it looks like we're going to have another Oxford athlete to cheer for during the next Olympics. So y'all keep an eye out for her. And another happy thing today that Mark Halsey let me know is that the Rascals at the corner of Belk and Highway 7 has reopened. So it no longer has Popeye's chicken, but you can get your gallon of milk there. And we are all too aware, and Josh will hear me talk a lot about this over the next few months, the PERS contribution that that employers are being asked to contribute. And I am going to be going to Jackson next week to attend the committee meetings and the board meeting of the PERS board. I think that some other mayors are going to go as well. And, you know, I'm not sure that they are aware of how this is affecting us where the rubber meets the road. If the contribution is raised another 5%, which is what their proposal is, that would mean about $1.3 million to the city of Oxford as an annual expense from that point forward. That's a big deal. So anyway, I'll be there next week. I'm sure spreading a lot of sunshine. So that's it for the mayor's report. I'll ask you to authorize the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on August the 1st with the one change that Ashley mentioned.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ask you to authorize the approval of accounts for all city departments.
So made.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ask you to consider the consent agenda with the 3 additions I mentioned.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Request permission to adopt a resolution of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Oxford, Mississippi, directing the issuance of a $2,300,000 general obligation note, Series 2023 of the City of Oxford, Mississippi, for the purpose of raising money to pay the costs of repairing, improving, adorning, and equipping municipal buildings and purchasing machinery and equipment, which has an expected useful life in excess of 10 years, awarding the sale of said note, prescribing the form and details of said note, providing certain covenants of said city in connection with said note, and directing the preparation, execution, and delivery thereof, ratifying the publication of a notice of note sale in connection with said note and the distribution of materials related to the sale and issuance of said note and for related purposes. I know everybody got a lot out of that. Sue, who can translate that much better than I?
At your July 18th meeting, this board approved going forward with a $2.3 million general obligation note, mainly for the trucks. Equipment for. And so, based on that resolution, we published a notice of note sale, which is in your packet, and then Steve Pittman, who's your financial advisor, sent out materials to potential purchasers. The date for submitting those was today. We opened those proposals today at 3:30. There were 5 bids that were conforming and 1 non-conforming bid, and you have the bids before you, I believe. And the winning bid is Citizens Bank at 4.76%. So this is a 5-year note, and we're asking for approval of awarding the sale to Citizens Bank at 4.76%, and then to proceed with the closing of the note.
All right, as was noted, this is for the purchase of equipment for our environmental services department, and Sue has read the low bid, so.
Move we approve the bid.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you for being here, Sue and Steve. All right, next we have our presentation of the Oxford Park Commission quarterly report.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I know there's a 7 or 8 page report in front of you. I will just kind of go over some highlights, and if y'all have any questions about any of it, we'll go right through it. In this quarter, we opened the pool up. We had 2 new programs this year that was offered to the public through independent contractors called HIT Aerobics and Deep Water Aerobics. Those were almost all filled up. I think there was 1 spot left in each one of those classes throughout the spring, or throughout the summer. We also had our 2nd year of the Power Wheels Derby. That's a really cool event. It's a lot of our young kids in Oxford, and parents bring their Power Wheels out, and they go around tracks and tracks just like they're in the Indy 500. Superhero Night, that was a new event this year. We had over 100 kids sign up to come in and become a superhero. They went through several series of games and things to create their cape and their mask, get their names. Had a Mother's Day event this year. It was about 40 kids, I think, signed up to come in and do some arts and crafts with their mom. Tennis tournaments, had 2 really big tennis tournaments in this quarter. One with the MHSAA had over 600 students from high schools in town. For that, we work hand in hand with Visit Oxford on getting them in town. And then we had the MTA over 40 state championships, estimated 600 players in town for that. 118 rentals this time between our Stone Center and multipurpose room, our pavilions, over the course of time. And just a reminder on our pavilions, you do not have to rent them, but that's how you can guarantee your space if you want that. So just in those 3 months, had 118 different rentals. A couple of programs that were new this time. OPC basketball had a developmental camp. We're working with Brian Rucker, who is in with the Tupelo Saints organization. He had a new program this time where we have a mini dribblers program, which is for little kids, just to get introduced to basketball. But this development camp is for a higher level athlete wanting to come in and do that. Of course, you see this mini dribblers uptick by about 20 kids in youth summer basketball. This was their second year to do that. We had adult kickball this summer. Adult traditional sports have just fell off the map. We just can't get those types of numbers. When I first started 8 years ago, we had 28 to 30 adult softball teams. I think we had 8 this past year.
Really?
Just adult sports like that are falling off. So we went to a more non-traditional route, offering kickball, offering dodgeball, offering things like that, and we get 12 to 14 teams a lot of times when we do those types of programs. We did have a youth travel basketball tournament, had 28 teams in town this corner for that. Had a youth fishing day. We worked with U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and sent several youth out to get some instruction and some youth fishing going on. Day camps this year, which was a big one. We actually added 2 weeks this year. Allowed the parents to sign up for the day camp program by the week. Where in the past they had to sign up by the month. What this allowed them to do, if they were going to be out of town for a week in June and they knew that ahead of time, they didn't have to pay for a week that they weren't going to utilize. So we did have a bunch of feedback already on that particular thing in our survey. So we'll bring it back next year. It's a little bit more paperwork to do and stuff, but it was very well worth it to know giving the citizens a chance to get a little break. And over 500 free swim lessons were done this year as well. So that's just a highlight of this quarter. If you have any other questions about what's in there, I'm glad to answer, but just gonna give a quick highlight.
Seth, I got a question.
Okay.
Our pool.
Yes.
It's not clean. It's green. It's got a green tint to it. We've got algae in it right now. We've got to get that cleaned up.
We had a meeting in my office yesterday regarding the pool and what it was. There's algae as of yesterday that, I mean, this morning, or not this morning, right before I came over here, where I stayed late last week when I found out about it, stayed late and got that gone. Went by there just a minute ago after I had a meeting yesterday about them. It is cloudy in the deep end, but the numbers, I can't explain it to you. I'm telling you, I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing. But our numbers on every one of our tests are not showing where there's any chemical imbalance. Obviously, if there's algae, there is chemical imbalance. But our numbers that we're testing every day has that. I'm not disagreeing with you. I mean, I agree.
Do you think it's time to bring in a commercial?
We have taken, we were today supposed to have taken, and I've been in evaluations all day, so I haven't followed up from that. We were supposed to take some water to be tested today at Rebel Pools to see what it's coming out as. But I have no issue with going further than that, depending on what they come up with and tell us to.
Okay, it's got to be clean. I mean,
We've struggled with it all summer. So we got to figure it out. All right, anybody else have any questions for Seth? Love all the new programs. Those are so great. I love how you've worked with the community to figure out how to offer the camps and give parents a break for their vacation weeks and kids going to other camps and that kind of thing too. So thank you for all your hard work and all that of your staff.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Next on our agenda is to consider an appointment to the Planning Commission. I would recommend to you Yolanda Logan to be appointed to the Planning Commission.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We're going to only consider one appointment to the Historic Preservation Commission this evening, and I would recommend to you Rachel Malone West.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, and I would ask you to consider a reappointment of Jason Lowe to the Oxford Park Commission Board for a second term.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Request permission to approve a parade assembly permit for Visit Oxford to host live music on the square. I'm so excited about using this new park. I can't stand it.
Same thing as last year.
It's gonna be in,
Pretty
it's
much.
gonna be in the park.
Well,
We didn't have a park last year.
we didn't.
That's right, Rick.
We had a, yes. Same area.
Yes,
Poison.
yes. But I like to talk about the new park.
So we have 4 dates. Tunes Around Town, is that what we're calling again? Nope. All right. My partner didn't come up here with me. Man.
We're calling music in the park.
Music in the
Because
park.
I'm not sure if you knew, but now we have a park.
We do. We have a park. So 4 dates, September 23rd, October 19th, November 16th, and December 21st.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Awesome. Thank you, Kenny, for getting that worked out, and you too, Chief. Discuss an amendment to the tuition reimbursement for the paramedic certification program at the fire department. Chief Gardner?
Yes, ma'am, just one small change to that, and the only change is if you receive financial aid, the city will pay the remainder portion of your tuition and expenses.
Move we approve.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, Chief. Request approval for a final plat or an amended final plat for case 2996 Capstone Development for the Lamar Phase 4, lots 93 through 95 and lot 103 for property located at the west end of Cincinnatus Boulevard, being further identified as PPIN 5067.
This is more of a housekeeping amendment to modify some setbacks on an error, to fix an error on setbacks of a plat for 4 lots. So lots 93 through 95 and lot 103. The setbacks were listed as 5 feet, but they were intended to be 4 feet, just like the ones that were across from it. Planning Commission heard this item last night, and they recommended approval of it.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, Ben. Request permission to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a computer software support agreement addendum with Delta Computer Systems for the continued maintenance of the tax collection software. Ashley?
Yes, this is a kind of a housekeeping item. We do this every year. It's just our annual kind of re-upping our subscription with Delta for our tax maintenance software.
Motion made to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Request permission to adopt the amended FY 2024 budget for the Oxford University Transit, which includes the added expenses for the county transit program as approved by MDOT. I know Donna is out tonight, and she asked Ashley to present this for her.
Yes, as we've moved through budget, we've talked about the county transit program that we have previously maintained kind of under the city umbrella. Donna has stepped forward and is pulling that under her OUT umbrella with the approval of MDOT. So this is just a revised copy of her budget, adding those expenses to her previously approved budget. So this is just encompassing everything that she's going to be over.
Move we approve.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? And request permission to accept $10,000 in multimodal grant funds for the Oxford University Transit Department.
Yes, in the past, they have gotten this money from the state to help with their insurance costs.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Discuss the installation, I'm sorry, Rick, I thought you were telling me something. No worries. Discuss the installation of a crosswalk and pedestrian refuge at the intersection of South Lamar Boulevard and Buchanan Avenue. I'm gonna let Rihanna get us started.
Yes, thank you. We received request for a crosswalk at the intersection of South Lamar and Buchanan, and I want to go ahead and start and acknowledge that we proceeded with design and construction without bringing this for presentation to the board, and I acknowledge that that was my error. And so I want to start with that and apologize again for moving forward with that without giving you all the opportunity to discuss this as is appropriate and as is customary for these projects. So I just want to get started with that, and then I can move into, in your packet, I provided a memo that details The plan, as presented in discussing a mid-block crosswalk, we have installed these in a number of locations around town, and they are in compliance with all of our engineering guidelines and standards. This intersection does meet the standards for mid-block crosswalks and therefore would be considered appropriate from an engineering analysis. There are two design options provided for discussion tonight. The first is to have a refuge with just the refuge, and it would not have blinking lights.
Let me interrupt you 1 second.
Yes.
Can we put these on this?
I failed to.
Who's back there in the IT room? Hey, can you put what we're looking at on the screen? If I send it to you, Tyler, or how can we? I want everybody that's looking at it to know what we're.
Oh, okay, I've got the pictures.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. You know I don't know how to do all that stuff.
Come on up.
I apologize, Tyler, I did not send this.
It is always operator error in my office, sorry. This is only Tyler's third time today to have to deal with my iPad. Sorry for the delay. I just know it'll be easier for everybody to understand if you can see what we're looking at. Okay. Okay, perfect. I'm sorry.
No.
Okay. Do that?
I use some at Cambridge, Massachusetts. They have Paul.
Awesome. Okay. Okay, Brianna, so I'll try to drive it from here. I'm sure I'll screw this up, but we'll give it a shot.
So the original design included, in addition to the pedestrian refuge in the center where the existing turn lane is, it also included pedestrian activated flashing lights. We've got those installed in a couple of locations. We have them on Price and we have them on Molly Bar at CB Webb. And the pedestrian activated lights work that when a pedestrian accesses that portion of sidewalk, the flashing lights automatically come on. They don't require action by the pedestrian to do anything. They just activate. However, those are not required. The lights are not required by the engineering guidelines. They are something that we add on in some locations, and so they were added here, but they are not required by engineering standards. And so the two options for discussion, well, I guess there's three options for discussion. The first option is, does the board want to proceed with this crosswalk? The second option would be, does the board want to have the flashing lights, or does the board want to just have the regular signage that's required and not have pedestrian activated lights or push button? There is an option where you could do a push button where the pedestrian would activate them manually. And we also have that option. We have that existing in town as well. So there is a rendering that's included if it was available. And that version shows the existing view and also to show the crosswalk in the center with the pole. We are required to have the pedestrian signage. So you see that there's an orange sign there with a pedestrian and an arrow. The sign is required. In between the sign and the arrow, there's a little bar light, and that is optional. There are also two posts shown in this view, and those are the posts that contain the pedestrian activated system. So those are optional. But this is just a rendering of an island with a pedestrian sign there. And so that's the view looking southbound. And then there's also to show existing northbound and with the pedestrian refuge there. As I acknowledged with my error, we approved the contractor to begin work, and so they have removed a portion of asphalt there. Should the board choose not to move forward with this, that can be replaced, and it'll be replaced and can move forward. So I am here tonight for discussion and for direction on the desire of the board for this intersection.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Rihanna? I know that we had a few citizens that indicated that they wanted to speak. Is there anybody that would like to speak? If you don't mind coming up to the podium and introducing yourself, please.
I'm Susan Reed, my husband Mike
Reed.
We live at Lamar Buchanan. We took some pictures, just for a little, if it's okay to give.
Sure, yeah, of course.
We live at the intersection. Our neighbors are Dr. and Mrs. Ernie Williams. Dr. Williams, he was on call.
Okay.
Just a moment ago.
All righty.
But I told him that we would start it. And we, navigate this every day, the intersection. So Mike made some notes and we'd like to talk to you.
Okay.
Yes, first of all, I'm Mike Reed, my wife Susan, as she stated. I want to thank the committee for giving us this time to just cover our thoughts today. I know that the committee works hard for the city of Oxford to keep our community safe, to keep it beautiful, and the environment that we all enjoy. Having said this, I am opposed to anything on the crosswalk that may obstruct traffic, make it more dangerous for us to commute. We live in the neighborhood, we drive this every day, and what I've been told, which is hearsay, whether it's accurate or not, what I've been told that was going to happen at this area, I think will make the intersection less safe, and I have to drive it. My family drives it every day. I want you to look at the intersection through my eyes as someone who travels it every day. My wife travels it every day. I have 2 sons that live in the area. I have grandkids, and I just wanted to cover a few things the photos that you have in front of you, and I apologize if they're not in order because we just did them in the back of the car a minute ago when we saw Mark walking across the street, so bear with us. But the first photo you'll see has a white van in it, and it is the area you can see that y'all are working with is right there already. We have some posts that's been run over. That's happened all the time the last few days in this area. But I live on the Buchanan, what would that be? That would be the east side of South Lamar. Mm-hmm. And when I'm pulling out of South Lamar on the east side, if I turn right, I'm fine. I can make that turn and come to the square, no problems. Since this has happened, when I'm pulling out on South Lamar and try to go south, then I have a tunnel effect to try to pull in that lane and get through there. Now, bear with me that we're sitting here watching the traffic, and y'all all know how busy that section is. And again, I'm not opposed to a crosswalk or something there, but I'm wanting to do it the right way. But when you're pulling out of Buchanan on the east side of South Lamar, you cannot make a left turn and go south towards Highway 6. I watched somebody And Mark, I appreciate you calling this afternoon. Right after you called, there was a City of Oxford vehicle with engineering department on the side door, because I was walking outside. And they pulled out of Buchanan to make the left turn towards Highway 6. And they had to turn it hard. They stopped and made a hard turn. And so they know how tight it is. Whoever that was, I don't know who it is. But I do know that we have garbage trucks, we have landscapers, we have various vehicles coming through down Buchanan. They're not going to be able to make a left turn. And that's where the garbage truck goes every time. They turn left and go make the route. But they're not going to be able to do that anymore. I can imagine if a fire truck needed to make a left turn, he's going to take out this planter. The street is just not wide enough. And I know a question you might have, well, we're not really doing anything to the street right there, that one lane. But if I don't know how far that is. Let's say it's 10 feet. I didn't measure it, but let's just go with 10 feet. If I'm in a parking lot and I have marked off in the parking lot and I'm trying to drive through a 10 feet corridor, it's pretty wide open, pretty easy to do. But if I get that same 10 feet and stand people at that 10 feet marker, now I'm funneled into an area because I have no wiggle room. And that's what y'all have done there, in my opinion. If you want to move to the next picture, this is coming out of Buchanan that somebody made one way, and this is coming out of Buchanan, and if I'm trying to turn in any direction, that car that you see in this picture is now having to move closer to the curb to get through that tunnel area in that lane that at one time had a turn lane, and when nobody was in that turn lane, the cars could fudge over to the center just a little bit. Now they're having to go to the right towards your curb, and y'all can see where my car is. I'm almost out in the road because I'm trying to see Buchanan to the left, and I have all those trees, and I love trees. I don't want y'all to take out any trees, but those trees are skewing our view to the left. So if y'all close South Lamar off any, I will not be able to, or the community will not be able to get out there safely and make a turn in either direction because of the trees. The next photo is the crosswalk area and the construction. And okay, Susie said it may not have been in y'all's thing.
This is the next one.
Okay.
This is the next one in ours.
One area that is you have your construction area right in the middle of the road. Where I am right there, I'm in the turn lane, trying to go to my house, make a left turn, and go to Buchanan. If you see the vehicle coming over the road there in the background, if any lights or any signs or anything's above ground, I'm concerned about people being able to keep safe and see the vehicles coming to make a turn to the left onto Buchanan. If you go to the next picture, we have Buchanan on the, let's see, the west side is one way now. I always thought that it's best to get traffic off of a busy street like South Lamar. And making Buchanan one way, going in the other direction, coming to South Lamar, in my opinion, what's happened is you're going to have cars that can't get off of South Lamar, so you're going to have more traffic trying to maneuver through this intersection. The two streets, one to the north, which is Pierce, and the Lincoln to the south, you see on the next photos, they're not big enough for two cars. With blocking off Buchanan to one way, coming on to South Lamar, we've restricted the cars flowing off of South Lamar. They can't use Pierce, they can't use Lincoln, they can't use Buchanan. So I guess they can go 3 or 4 streets down and try to come up through the neighborhood. But unless y'all are going to look at widening Pierce and Lincoln, you can see in these photos, you can't get by. And my concern is, if a car is on Lincoln or Pierce trying to pull out, and I'm on South Lamar, I cannot pull off of South Lamar. I have to wait, and that happened to us this morning. We had to wait, a car pulled up, and they looked at us, and they were waiting for us to get out of the way, and we were kind of just watching them, and they ended up turning in a different direction. They were wanting to come to South Lamar, but they turned and went down 11th Street because they had no options. So, you can look at the pictures there, and let's see. And we're not opposed to a crosswalk as long as it fits into the neighborhood. It doesn't really protrude up above the asphalt to where you're choking off South Lamar from people coming out of Buchanan to have the tunnel effect down the lane. And I know the fire department, the fire chief was here a minute ago. I think he wouldn't be happy if he couldn't maneuver his fire truck through this part of the neighborhood. He can't come out of Buchanan and go south on Lamar without taking out the pretty landscaping or whatever y'all have plans there. But he can't go left. And the garbage trucks and landscapers, nobody can go left anymore. And now on Pierce, Buchanan, and Lincoln, they can't go that direction anymore. So we're stuck. So, you have anything, babe? Okay.
Thank y'all so much for
But we do appreciate each one of y'all. We do understand and know by being in business in some other towns that y'all are a vital part of town. Y'all give your time. A lot of times go unappreciated and stuff. And I talk to these mayors in these other towns all the time, and people just don't understand what it takes to run a city. Keep it clean, keep it safe. Just y'all know better than I do. So we're not complaining. We're just trying to throw these out there to be under consideration, because we want our community out here to be safe as well.
Absolutely.
So thank y'all so much.
I thank you for taking the time to come and share your thoughts.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Ernie, did you want to say anything?
Well, and I want to echo what Mike and Susie said. Again, we appreciate all you all do for us. Many times goes unnoticed the hours and times that you all devote to our city, and do it with pride and love, just like all of us do. And as guardians of our town, again, these things sometimes work better when communication is present, and I think that's the big lacking part. It's
Well,
like
we
with
did
everything in
start
life.
before you got here. I just want to say we did start with an apology. So
Well,
I
and I want to
apologize to
illustrate
you
something to that, which I want to pass around. This is sort of a little schematic of the map of the area of interest of our town. And if you look at it, everything in orange are people who have verified that they have gotten zero information about any of this. And like myself, they've watched a random one-way sign appear, a littering of signs on this side that don't make sense. And then it's kind of like we're just making something up as we go. Yellow, there's a few that haven't been verified because I haven't been able to make contact with them. Yellow seems to be where the idea for this got started 5 or 6 years ago as a simple request for a crosswalk. Simple painted crosswalk, just as a place, because there is really nothing from Four Corners up to the bypass, something that people could teach their kids, hey, let's go where the crosswalk is when we're going. No idea for anything elaborate, nothing of any magnitude like this, just a simple marking where people could cross and they could teach their kids, hey, this is where you want to go so that you're not jaywalking. And now, of course, their kids are grown and they don't really have as much need for this anymore. I mean, they, like all of us, I mean, I go more with the approach, teach your kids defensiveness in being a city kid. Teach your kids how to do and behave and watch for traffic. I think sometimes we do a disservice to people by creating these little pedestrian safety places, because if anything, I've watched many places around town, people just sort of lose their brains. They just walk into these places as if they don't have to be engaged in watching traffic. I have sat on the Graduate 2 different times with people having some drinks and watching somebody just walk out from the Chancery building as if the world just stops around them because they have this illusion that this is some safety thing and have gotten hit. So to that point, we have incidents that are happening that I'm curious to know why we don't really have a response, and yet here on South Lamar, very little, if any. There's none I know of. I'm sure there's probably been a kid clipped at one point in time, but you know, we don't have a data to support a need for something. Do we really need it? Is this really a good stewardship of taxpayer dollars to fix a problem that isn't a problem, to fix something that isn't broken? You know, South Lamar has been a busy corridor long before the 40-something years I've been driving and the 50-something years I've been living here, and longer than any of us have. And again, people sort of learn how to navigate the street. You know, along those lines, I think now that you all can kind of see, there's not been a lot of communication involved, and now that it is what it is, and just taking off of what Mike and Susie were saying, when you live in this immediate area, there's a game and a strategy to dealing with a busy street like South Lamar and in navigating the traffic. This is going to mess all that up. I can just tell you, it's going to create more problems than it's worth. It's going to create problems with service vehicles. It seems like we have a little pattern of taking roads that were designed to be traffic moving corridors and finding from one voice or two a need to slow it all down, disrupt the flow, and it just creates more problems than it's worth. It's going to make difficulty, again, for service vehicles, for construction people. It's definitely going to mess up the timing. People are going to start slowing down, and where those of us are already dodging trees and potholes and trying to figure out, okay, there's our little gap, there will be no more gap, because everybody's going to start slowing down, and then it's just going to be one continuous line. When I first saw, you know, I wasn't sure what the whole closing of the other side of Buchanan was about, but when they came and were digging and making the sidewalk and then they were beginning to paint, I was kind of excited, because years ago, you know, I called and made reports on, probably before y'all were on the city government, at a need to maybe widen or soften the entrance of Buchanan onto Lamar, because where these sewer holes are, when Buchanan was a much narrower street and now the street has widened, it's just this sort of weird wobbly thing that happens when cars turn ingress, egress off of Buchanan. They kind of go down in the sewer and back up, and you never know who's going to get whom. And if you just sort of softened it out a little bit more, you'll have room for people to turn, avoid those, and get more room, particularly when you have trucks and things like that. So I thought maybe that's what it was about, and then all of a sudden here comes the, you know, pile driving into the middle of the street. So again, I think if you look at, is there a need based on events that have happened? I think the answer is no. If, you know, is this really a wise expenditure of money when we have many other places that this thing can go? It doesn't really pass the test for that. Now you get to form and function, and, you know, aesthetically, is this really, if it's, you know, from what we were told from the City of Engineering Department, this is going to mirror what's on Molly Bar Road. Molly Bar is a very different beast. It is a very long middle turn lane when 4 lanes were chopped up into one, and a long turn lane. And so it stands to reason that there was that event that happened, unfortunately, and somebody had crossed and hanging out in the median, and somebody turned way earlier than they should going up to the intersection. You know, South Lamar, you don't have that, because you've got all of these different one-way pointing sort of turn lanes. There's not this long corridor where somebody can, you know, move over and coast for a half mile and take somebody out inadvertently. You know, pretty much people stick into their little pockets of turn as they come. But, you know, if this is going to look like what's on Molly Bar, and there's going to be a solar panel and it's going to be illuminated, you know, does that really comply? And are you all kind of following a similar script to what we as homeowners and residents have to go through. We don't get to do a lot to our properties short of maintenance without a lot of critical eyes looking over what we do. And to me, it's a little bit of a double standard when we just kind of make something up on the fly without, again, some eyes paying attention to aesthetics as well as function. Because all of that has to go hand in hand if we're going to be continue to be the great city that we are. And again, along that lines, what kind of uniform standards are we following, and do we even have any when it comes to these types of things? It just has a little bit of a made up as we go sort of feel about it. And so, again, talking to the original people who had just proposed a crosswalk, they still stand by the original thing. Can we not just paint a crosswalk and call it a day, was the quote from the neighbors. And that's been the uniform thought from everybody orange on there I've made contact with. And what I'm speaking to are different quotes that come from different people. But that's been a consistent thing. Just paint some stripes and call it a day. That is all we need. And so that would be our request to you all as you review all of this and make your final decisions on it.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Dr. Williams? Right.
Thank you all.
Thank you. All right, is there anybody else that wishes to speak on this topic?
And for the record, we've sent 3 emails to Ashley.
Right.
In support. So.
3 emails of support that were forwarded to be in the minutes. All right, Alderman, what is your?
I'd just like Brianna to respond to some of their concerns. Most of those fall on engineering.
Yes.
Turn radiuses and sight lines and.
Yes.
And I guess just one question, no matter how, whether it's the pedestrian refuge or just a painted crosswalk, we still have to have the crosswalk sign.
Yes.
Okay.
So, yes, thank you. And to again address, I again acknowledge that I failed to follow our standards, the City of Oxford standards for how this project moved forward, and that was an error on my part and a serious error that I can assure you will not be repeated. But what I can say is that the engineering on this is thorough. We do follow our engineering guidelines. The City of Oxford, our engineering department, we are, as engineers in general, just as doctors, we have an oath for engineers, and we take everything, we look at always life safety. So we are always considering that. We have our manual of uniform traffic control devices that we have to follow, and it provides all of our standards for when we can even install a crosswalk, because there are a number of instances where a crosswalk is strictly prohibited. We also have our guide for the planning, design, and operation of pedestrian facilities, and these are national standards. And so I want to assure you that this has not been haphazardly done. I understand that in Oxford we deploy a number of methods across town, and so it may feel at times that it's haphazard because it may not match in every situation. We make unique engineering judgments just as a physician or any other professional would. So it is well designed according to all engineering standards, and I do want to state that. We've considered the turning radiuses, so the ability for traffic to be able to make that maneuver and turn, those have been considered. We also, I will say that you are permitted by the MUT City, the engineering standards would allow just a painted crosswalk in consideration of the current volume of traffic on South Lamar and the speed. But a mid-block crosswalk is the recommended guidance. It's an additional, this is what is preferred. So you could stripe it, but engineering believes that that mid-block crosswalk, that refuge is important. We believe that that gives a pedestrian a shorter distance to cross, and that's what they're designed for, is so that when a pedestrian is trying to cross a roadway as wide as this, that they have a space, they have one lane of traffic that they have to cross at a time, they have a shorter distance, and then they have a place that is protected on each end and that they can wait and make their next crossing. It also accounts for pedestrians that may be slower and that may take more time to cross, particularly when the road is this wide. And again, I would say that the engineering standards for crosswalks are extensive, and so all of these factors are considered in that. And so that is why we have presented it as a refuge. We do believe that that is important. The lights are optional. The lights are not solar here. The tree canopy would prohibit solar use, and so this will be, they'll be provided by power. The refuge at Molly Bar, it is similar in that it's pedestrian activated, similar signs, but these signs are a different color, and part of that is in consideration of the historic nature. Both styles, both colors of sign are legal and conforming. There's a fluorescent option that you'll see we deploy in school zones sometimes, in areas where we have a lot more children, things like that, where we just, are catching they're a little brighter. But again, in consideration that this is a historic area, the traditional and acceptable color signs are what's shown here.
So the things that I heard, both of our citizens have spoken tonight, the first thing was, is there a need? So how do we determine that there's a need?
So the need is considered as you're considering are pedestrians using this area. So are pedestrians crossing here versus other locations? And typically in areas, we can identify that need without hearing from anyone by a footpath. So the presence of a footpath indicates a need. However, in this area, there was already existing sidewalk crossing the street, and so that is not evident. And so this has come from the request and the presentation that there are people crossing here, and
but we didn't do a study
anecdotal. No, we have not done a pedestrian count here to determine how many people are crossing in a time period. No, ma'am.
And so,
Mayor, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So you may have said it, but did you address, Rihanna, the vehicles turning left off of Buchanan? I mean, not only the emergency vehicles, but just regular vehicles like Mr. Reed talked about.
Yes, so the turning radius is in accordance with engineering standards to be able to make that turn. I will acknowledge that that turn will no longer be able to be made on a very short angle. You won't be able to cut across, and I feel like a lot of people probably cut across instead of turning closer to a 90-degree angle. They probably cut across on more of a 45 and cut through the turn lane, unless there's a car parked there in the turn lane stopping, the same way that if you're at University Avenue, if there's nobody there in those turn lanes or adjacent lanes, you kind of cut off the intersection. Mm-hmm. You would not be able to obviously cut off the intersection in the same way, but you will be able to turn in a normal manner there. You will make the turn more slowly as far as navigating there. And then as far as the tree, that is not something that engineering, the tree sight distance issue is not something that would fall under a different department with the trees there, so.
So need, and then I think you've addressed the concerns about, I have, as I've been caught up on this, thought more about pedestrians, and I don't want to give pedestrians a false sense of security that, on the square, especially with the new students that are back, they step into that crosswalk, they don't look left or right or look up from their phone if they're just walking straight or what have you, and it gives me some pause to think that they would do that on South Lamar, where drivers are not going to be as responsive as they are at Jackson Avenue East by Bourré. And so you believe, though, that pedestrian refuge is critical. You don't think that makes it more dangerous?
No, ma'am, I do not believe that the refuge makes it more dangerous at all. I believe that that is an important, we've discussed a lot that there is the engineering guidelines, which are safe, And then there is safer and safest, and we generally go towards more the safest. We normally try to be very, very conservative. And so I believe that that mid-block, that refuge falls under the safer. Again, we're gonna comply with our engineering standards, but we are recommending an additional refuge, just because it is a wide crosswalk, and if you have anyone that's older, or if it's, you know, someone in there, they've got difficulty walking, or just, you know, slower, that provides an area to wait. So, and I do want to address the height issue that Mr. Reed spoke of. So the cones that are out there now, they are 3 feet tall, and that is higher than any planting or anything. Those are tall, and I understand that right now that is approaching into your area of concern. But what would be planted there, I'm not, again, not Greg, but those would be lower to the ground so that they would be out of any visual sight distance there.
Right?
Thank you, Karen.
Okay. Yes.
I promise you I'll be brief. On the refuge area, that's one thing that I'm very concerned with. She mentioned about the width of Lamar. Well, the width of Lamar is the same whether you're on North Lamar or South Lamar, all the way. Common sense, I'm a simple person, and common sense tells me if you take people and put them in the middle of South Lamar, y'all all know the traffic. I don't know what the traffic count is, but I know it's a lot. I don't know how many thousands a day. Y'all do. Y'all have all this information. But to take a person and put them in the middle of a busy thoroughfare just don't make any sense to me. I know they say, well, we're trying to get people, some people can't walk as fast as others. Why would you want to put them in the middle of traffic? I don't understand that. Y'all know the community, y'all know the road. The amount of rear ends that we've had on South Lamar, and y'all know this, is pretty high. We can be out in the yard working and watch people coming down South Lamar. A lot of them will have their cell phone in the steering wheels. They're looking at their cell phone. They're doing good to make it down Lamar without hitting somebody. And we're being suggested to put people in the middle of all this. You used the same theory out there on Highway 6 years ago when we used to have home football games, and which was a smart move to take those people and get them off of Highway 6. Well, they're wanting to put people in the middle of South Lamar. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I have children, grandchildren that go across there every day, so I know how it is to have to wait till traffic opens up, and sometimes you have to wait a few minutes more to get across there safely. But to put me and my grandchild in the middle of South Lamar, waiting on traffic to finish coming by, when they're not paying attention anyway, it's just crazy. So that's all I have to say. Thank y'all so much.
Yes, Ernie?
Well, and I would just say, I mean, this is government at its best, and it's government at its worst. It is digging deep into guidelines and parameters and what ifs and scenarios that just don't happen. How many 88-year-old people do you see trying to cross? And let me tell you, when I'm 88, you will not see me crossing South Lamar, because my butt doesn't need to be out there doing that. If I can't make it across in one fell swoop, I don't need to be out there. And I've got enough sense to know that. And that's kind of what's missing from this is common sense. The worst of government is when we get so deep in the weeds in the books that we don't stand back and look at the common sense things. So this is what I want to present to you one more time. Can you tell me how many incidents of injury, pedestrian injury from an automobile have happened in South Lamar?
No, sir, I cannot.
Okay. Probably because it's little to none. Because the onus is on a person when they're on Lamar crossing to know, I've got to be on my P's and Q's here. That's going to go away, trust me. So if you all vote to go through with this, this, and honestly, I tell you, the better idea is to leave well enough alone. Again, I know for medicine, do no harm, and sometimes the best answer is no, even if everybody feels like that surgery is the best thing for mom. Sometimes mom's gonna die in that surgery, that is not the best thing for her. Same thing here, sometimes no is an okay answer when it comes from a singular need or a singular individual, and you apply that against the common good. So I want your all's word, if you all decide to go through with this, and we have an incident, that you will scrape it up and you will bag it as quick as can be. And along those same lines, are we watching incidences at other points along the way? Because they happen. I've watched two right there in front of the Chancery Building. And that pedestrian that just blindly walked on out, technically she was not at fault, it was the car. So again, we want to go back to the books. Car was at fault, we all know that. That was a slow moving car, blinded by those sharp angles that angled parking provides. She just walked out with no effort to be defensive, and a lot of it that did her because she's still the one nursing that broken ankle and feeding her up in Baptist Hospital. You know, she's in the right, and look where she is. A lot of good at being in the right is done. So I just worry, just like Mike said, we're going to invite people now to drop their guards. You may see clutch. I'm envisioning football weekend. I'm envisioning 10 and 12 college buddies all piling up in that middle because we created a pedestrian safe haven. And then what's going to happen? We're really asking for trouble.
Thank you.
Well, you say that nobody's got hit crossing right there at Buchanan and Lamar, South Lamar. Nobody that y'all know of. Well, you're fixing to have people when you start bringing them to the middle and let them stand.
If y'all have anything new to present, I'm happy to hear it, but we're not gonna have a back and forth argument, so. All right, any other aldermen?
Y'all might hate me for this one, but I look as deep as I can, and I have driven down South Lamar, but I didn't come out from what's the crossroad? Buchanan, and try to turn. And everybody knows I drive big Suburbans. I'd have to look at that radius to see. Part of another thing that nobody talks about, you put a island there to narrow your traffic lanes, to slow people down. I mean, it's not there just because you want somebody to get to the middle and stop. I mean, you want them to slow down before they get there. It's part of what I see when we're going there. And I'd much rather put it off 2 weeks so I can go study this a little bit more. I hate to tell you that, but I mean, I've had to say that before. I have not pulled out of Buchanan and tried to turn right there. I look exactly what y'all are saying. I mean, if I try to pull out in a Suburban, I'm probably gonna take a bush out if I'm looking at it on paper right now, in my mind. So.
How do we count pedestrian crossings?
We would have to physically stand there to count pedestrians.
But you can't now because you've got a torn up center. They're not gonna cross there for sure.
Well, and the point is to get them to cross here and not all the way up and down Lamar. I mean, so it's, right now they're crossing everywhere and not just
from
here.
Johnson.
And that was the point of pushing them to a singular crosswalk. But I'm not opposed to tabling it 2 weeks.
I think it's proactive. I think incidents are not something you wait on to be reactive to. I think it's proactive, and it allows and it connects the east side of Lamar to the west side, and they can travel and connect to the university or whatever. I mean, you have students crossing in the mornings, walking through my neighborhood all the time. And as far as traffic, it will slow traffic down, but I think the last thing anybody wants is, at least in my ward, is for traffic to leave South Lamar to cut through and go over to University. If that's why Buchanan was made one way, it's easier, and in agreement with the residents that live on that small slice of Buchanan. But
is there, I know this is probably going to sound like a crazy question because, and by the way, I'm not opposed to the 2 weeks, but the actual, I know no family wants this in the front of their yard, but can we not have this not right at a street, a corner like that?
In looking at the design, that is a great question, and in looking at the design, we were trying to find an area. We were trying to find an area that was kind of midways in this corridor, and that also would not require new sidewalk construction in what would be more considered the middle of someone's front yard. Although it is right of way, we acknowledge that, you know, the public cares for this area, and they consider it their yard if it's in front of their home. And so we were trying to be as in consideration of that, and also making sure that we were not in conflict with any existing driveways or other turning maneuvers in that area. So we did look at the corridor as a whole. So, and it was also, we discussed it with our Pathways Commission, and I have failed to point that out. We did discuss it with our Pathways Commission, and they did believe that this was the better location. I apologize, it's been in the works for a time, and I apologize that I've failed to mention that.
So how do y'all want to move forward? It is actually 3 weeks until our next board meeting. This is one of those months that the first one fell the first week, so.
I make a motion, table till the next board meeting.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Any opposed? All right. Are you opposed, or you were voting aye, just delayed? John?
No, I'm for the tabling it.
Okay,
I'm fine
just
with
making
that.
sure. No, I got ahead of you. Bart?
So what do we do? Do we leave it like it is? You know, realize we got a home football game coming with a lot of folks coming to town. We got some construction stuff in the middle of
Got a football game.
Well, do we want to call a special meeting in a week? I just didn't think
It's up
about
to
going
y'all.
through Buchanan when I was looking at this whole situation.
And I will say this, the traffic backs up, I mean, with the exception of nighttime and stuff, I mean, the traffic's gonna be all the way back there to that most of the days anyway.
I don't understand. What did you say? You said the traffic's gonna be.
I'm saying the traffic backs up going to the square this time of year all the way back there anyway.
How many days you
Not
need to
every
look at it,
day.
Rick?
Say again?
How many days you want to look at it?
I just need to drive down there and get off of South Lamar, I'm sorry. I mean, a day, 2 days, whatever you.
Y'all's call.
I think it needs to be addressed quicker, sooner rather than later.
Monday?
I certainly don't like the idea of waiting 3 weeks to.
I agree, Brian.
Monday afternoon?
I'm good.
Fine by
I'm
me.
just doing this.
That's NMRC's 50th anniversary at 2 o'clock, so it would have to be after that
Or lunchtime?
on Monday.
What's your schedule like, Rick?
It's the Board of Realtors annual meeting at lunch. Sorry, I mean, I can go through all of it if you want me to, but.
I mean, besides the NMRC thing, I'm wide open Monday.
11 o'clock? What time's your lunch thing?
I have to be on campus for the Grove Collective at 11 o'clock on Monday.
Hey, Jason?
Sorry.
No, just playing.
You can, yeah, you can do it without me, for sure. You can do it without me, but
4 o'clock. 4 o'clock.
Monday at 4 o'clock would be good.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
Okay.
All right, then we'll have a special called meeting Monday at 4 o'clock. So do I, no, it's specially called, so I don't, yeah. All right, we will move along. Request permission to apply for grant funds to the U.S. Department of Transportation for a rural and tribal assistance pilot program for a traffic signal improvement project. Rihanna?
Yes, our Director of Emergency Management, Shane Fortner, identified a grant that we've reviewed and we would be eligible to apply for traffic signal improvements. The grant is zero match, which is phenomenal. It provides funding of up to $320,000 for fiscal year 2022, or up to $360,000 for fiscal year 2023, and those years are associated with federal budgeting and dollars and allocations. So we have identified that we could improve our existing traffic signals through intelligent transportation systems. We would install preemptive signal technology on our existing traffic signals, and what that essentially would do is allow our fire trucks and police officers to preemptively change a signal to red without any action required by the officer or the fireman. So there would be equipment on our traffic signals that would interact with equipment in the vehicles that would automatically turn that traffic signal to red. And so again, in consideration that it is zero match, we are requesting permission to apply for these funds, and we would ask for permission for the mayor to sign all necessary paperwork.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Discuss the installation of a stop sign on Chickasaw, or stop signs on Chickasaw Road at Cincinnatus Boulevard. Rihanna?
Yes, we have received a request to install a stop sign on Chickasaw Drive at the intersection with Cincinnatus, and we present this for discussion. Cincinnatus is the new road that runs and connects through the Lamar development from North Lamar to Chickasaw, and Chickasaw connects from Molly Bar to the Woodland Hills subdivision. The proposed stop sign would convert that existing intersection into an all-way stop. So the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices does provide guidance regarding all traffic control devices, including striping, signage, traffic signals, etc. It provides warrants for the stop sign installations, and this intersection does not currently meet the warrants for an always stop, which include 5 or more crashes that could be prevented with an always stop, traffic volumes over an 8-year period, the need to control left turns, or other warrants. Cincinnatus opened to traffic in April, or I guess it was March, when the construction of the roundabout began. So it is a new road in a developing area. And so we consider these warrants, but I do acknowledge that this is a new road, but the application of these warrants are necessary to avoid any undesirable outcomes, such as people may run these stop signs if they're not warranted. If they don't meet the warrants, then people may run them. It also can increase noise in the area as vehicles stop abruptly and then speed up, accelerate quickly to make up for that time as they were stopped. And so it also can increase noncompliance or refusing to stop, among others. We did install a temporary stop sign during that construction period, and when Cincinnatus was being used as a detour road, Chickasaw was reopened on August 2nd, and so we don't have all of our fully established traffic patterns right now, so it is still a newer operating intersection as far as traffic. So I say it does not currently meet those standards for an always stop, but it may in the future as the Lamar completes construction. And again, I acknowledge that there are additional considerations the board may have, additional information, other things in addition to the engineering data that for the board to consider, and so I present this for discussion and instruction.
I mean,
Mayor, I'll jump in if I can. I've driven up this road so much during the construction of the roundabout and even before, because that's the way I leave my neighborhood. And there was a temporary stop sign, and I'll be honest, I didn't even realize that's what it was. It was so low and there was grass all around it. I thought it had just been turned the other way. I never saw anybody stop, if you want to know the truth. The only reason you stop that is because you turn right to go up Cincinnatus, but then lately nobody's been stopping. But you know, my preference, and I know Rick said that he may have gotten a couple of neighbors that asked about it. I'm not opposed to this, but I would rather see how much traffic is using it before we put a stop sign there because of what Brianna just said with, you know, the stopping and starting, and it makes even more noise than people just driving 25, 30 miles an hour up the road, which they've been doing for years. So I'm not against the stop sign, but I would, since this is a discussion part of the agenda, I would rather look at it and see if we need one and come back in 2 weeks, a month, or however long we need to come back and decide if we need a stop sign.
I agree. I mean, if it's not recommended by MUTCD, then I don't think that we should place a stop sign there. I mean, I understand it's not a sword I'd die on, but I do think that, you know, we continue to monitor the traffic on that road, and once it's warranted, we put one up.
So you've had 3 stop signs there, you've had a 3-way for 6 months or more, and I look at it as they're used to stopping at this point. We're gonna take them away and then add them back later. We've got over 150 houses that will be built for next summer is what it's looking like, plus the apartments that are going in, plus whatever businesses are fixing to be put there. Plus, we've just opened the roundabout for people to come through, makes it easier to hit Chickasaw. I look at it as a way to give a better, safe area, and we've had, that's what people are asking for, is we're a little worried with the amount of traffics that are going through, that's gonna come through. How do we back out now? How do we get out when we've got more traffic coming off of Cincinnati?
I don't have a problem looking at it, seeing how it goes.
So the request was to put a stop sign there. So are you saying?
No, I'm not at this time. I think it's not needed at this point in time. We see what traffic's gonna be like.
Make the motion to add traffic signs there.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
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 All right, so it will not get a stop sign right now, but we will continue to monitor that as we go forward and reconsider if data presents itself. All right, request permission for 3 employees to travel to Washington, D.C. It'll actually be 2 to travel to Washington, D.C.
And the cost is $44,752 because it is just.
On September 18th through the 21st for congressional meetings at a cost of, what'd you say, $4,752? All right.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, and now I will ask the board to consider an executive session.
Move we consider executive session.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Josh, thanks for coming.